The master luxuriated in a cloud of scented steam. He enjoyed all 6 hands of his most lovely creation as she massaged his tense muscles. He allowed his mind to fly free of his body, to roam strange spheres, bizarre, darker places, to hear as much as he could of the mad song of the mindless pipers that spend eternity entertaining and keeping at rest the blind idiot god at the center of creation. He allowed his astral body to quest to stranger and stranger places, more and more alien surroundings, vistas no man was meant to see. This was a perilous journey, but then these were perilous times. And then a strange song interrupted his meditations, the irritating noise of groveling. He tumbled back to base, foul consciousness. His eyes, once clouded with purple haze, cleared, and he set them on a cut and bleeding Halu. Oh dear, he must have pushed his way in. He was twisted on his knees in a submission hold, a dozen bloody claw marks stretching across his body. One of the master's handmaidens held razor-sharp talons underneath the soft part of Halu's jaw, waiting to end the wretched acolyte's life, should the master do so much as nod. He basked for a moment in the power of it all.
Such urgency, Halu. It would appear that you've forgotten even your manners. The protocols I keep in place are for your safety, and not merely because I don't like to be interrupted. And now my ladies have tasted of blood. I hope for your sake you give me good reason not to let them satisfy themselves fully.
I beg your forgiveness, master. I meant no harm and no disrespect, but I bring terrible news. The master inhaled deeply from his hookah and exhaled a cloud of sparkling blue haze over Halu's face, causing him to relax.
Do not sully this holy place with your anxieties, Halu. Anxiety is for a man who has not seen the future, as you and I both have. There is no place for worry when you have certainty, as I do. Allow me to be the judge of the quality of your news. And pray I don't find it insufficient to warrant this interruption.
Yes, master. Apologies, master. I tracked down Mormont, as you commanded. I took with me the last of the Gorum from the pit. He was expecting us to attack him, master. He must have learned something from his time keeping the Star Woman captive. He killed all of the Gorum. Killed them in a way that they would not return to life as they usually do.
Perhaps your judgment is better than I thought. This is dire news. You were good to bring it to me immediately. Is that all?
No, master. As he taunted me, he told me that he knew of places scattered across the island. More tombs like the one you found, where there are hundreds more Gorum. He also said it didn't matter anymore, because demons from the stars were coming to reclaim them.
And why exactly would he tell you this?
I'm unsure, master. Maybe he intends to trap you, or maybe he intends to... The taloned woman pressed her razor-sharp fingernails into the soft tissue on the underside of Halu's jaw.
Or perhaps he meant to buy his own measly life with this information. More likely he intended it as a psychic poison, to confuse me as to my purpose, to make me doubt myself. He is a clever opponent, and perhaps I should have sent a more clever hunter after him.
Master, wait! I bring news of the Star Woman as well. The master gestured to pause with one of his elegant hands.
Go on, then. What of her?
Yesterday she lost all patience in the Order of the Stars and flew away on that strange conveyance of hers. She decided to go visit the All-Knowing herself, without their blessings of the Order of the Stars, way ahead of when we expected.
And has she returned?
Not yet, master, but the village augurs, they all expect great mourning when she does.
I put little stock in the idle stargazing of overglorified fishmongers. However, she does seem to be moving my timetable up much faster than I had expected, and she has proven far harder to predict than I should like. I do not need chaotic elements clouding my vision for the future. I shall have to eliminate her far sooner rather than later. When she returns, Halu, I have a feeling that she will need more people at her side. You are to become one of them, and then you are to wait for my signal. I shall give you the honor of carving out her heart for me.
The handmaiden withdrew her talons slowly from Halu's flesh. She let crimson beads fall from her fingernails onto his doublet, and flicked blood in his face as a sign of contempt, before she heaved him hard and prostrate to the floor before her master. "Thank you, master. I will not disappoint you again."
"Oh, I know you won't, Halu. I know you won't."
Welcome to Swords Against Madness, an experimental fusion of solo fantasy RPG and storytelling. I'm playing Swords and Wizardry, a modern remake of the original 1974 rules for Dungeons & Dragons, along with a handful of tools for solo role-playing and occasionally bits of other classic role-playing games. I will play the game and then turn it into a psychedelic, gonzo sword and sorcery story for your enjoyment. And along the way, I'll try to keep it PG, or what passed for PG when I was a kid in the 80s. If you didn't see it in Goonies, Gremlins, or Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, you won't hear it here. So get comfortable in your studded leather kirtle or your chainmail bikini. Reload your three-bladed sword, and fire up the wizard van. It's time to get weird. I'm going to leave you on a bit of a cliffhanger when it comes to Miria and Edryk, at least till the end of the episode. Because Mythic has thrown me an awful lot of interesting curveballs in the last little while. I like to think of the Mythic Game Master emulator as something of a curveball generator. Every time you think you know what's going to happen next, it gives you a random chance of something different happening. Using the chaos factor mechanic, there's a chance between every scene, if you're not just crawling the dungeon solo like I sometimes do, of either the scene happening very differently than you expect, or something else stepping in the way and interrupting your progress. From there, you have a set of tables to determine who's going to be the center of attention, as well as what other threads in the campaign might suddenly be picked up and come back again, which allows things to tie together very nicely. It also means that you can't have a predictable plot. Anytime you think you're getting comfortable, something new will happen. When I asked whether or not Yongu was likely to detect Miria on her way home, I got an extreme no, which meant not only did he not have a chance of taking a shot at her as she was flying the Olan back to base, but it meant that something was going on with Yongu. A couple of random tables later, and I discover that he's being betrayed by his potential buyer. Playing it out in the Cepheus engine over the last couple of episodes has left Yongu the sole survivor on board his ship as it's been blown to smithereens. As I was finishing up the dungeon crawl through the Fane of the All-Knowing, I also decided to check in on other villains, to see what they were up to. I wanted to know, where did Mormont end up after all of this? Did he manage to strike a deal with the Master, who seemed like the only logical conclusion of someone he could trust at this point? And what I got was an extreme no. Not only did the Master not strike a deal with him, he betrayed him. Or, perhaps more likely, after little thought, I realized Mormont would likely betray the Master. Then I realized the best weapon that a devious soul like Mormont would have would be too much information. If he could get the Master trying to dig up more Gorum, well, then suddenly Yongu would be more annoyed at the Master than at Mormont. A perfect way for him to go deeper underground. And the best way to do that might be to create a little shortage on the Gorham front. Having observed how Miria handled things, he would know that magic is the key to killing the Gorham, and would probably have the means of wiping them out. When the Kodan was first destroyed, I pictured things going very badly for the people of Nar. Pirate ships with heavily armed men falling from the sky and taking over the village certainly seemed like a good possibility. And so I asked if that would come to pass, and I got a no. Okay, Mythic, I asked, why not? And I got the clearest answer you could possibly ask for. I got Avenge Ambush. Apparently Yongu wasn't happy to survive on the burning hulk of his ship, and he was not going to play nice either. No finding a way to sneak down onto the planet. He was going to make the Zur and her crew pay for their treachery. Whether or not Yongu would be successful in this, that was a question I was still left with. Rather than leave it to Mythic, I decided it would be fun to run a very quick, very bloody crawl, playing Yongu as he took his revenge on the crew of the Zur. And so I've used the map for a 600-ton freighter in Cepheus Deluxe. Added a few complications like extra staterooms, some low berths, and some weapon turrets and docks to represent its modification for pirate purposes. Aside from the normal complement of 4 crew, I've added 1 captain, 1 medic, 6 gunners, and 4 troopers, giving me a fairly sizable enemy crew. I also thought it would be fun to throw in a few combat automatons. And so as an experiment, we are going to speedrun Yongu's attack on the Zur. And I'm going to do it live on mic, in the extemporaneous style I admire from Legend of the Bones and Tale of the Manticore. So sit back, put on an evil grin. Let's be the bad guys.
Now this is a matter of supreme importance.
Welcome to Stories from the First Watch. This is both a solo game and an experiment in storytelling. The story and the characters' actions will unfold upon the roll of the dice. They are in control.
Be careful what you say, or you have no tongue at all.
Follow the exploits of a party of adventurers forced to take on a dangerous mission on behalf of a shadowy organisation.
Just be careful when insulting minor lordlings. Their egos can be dangerous things.
Available on Podbean, Spotify and Podchaser. And come and listen to more Stories from the First Watch.
Okay, it's time to lay some of the groundwork for this adventure. Yongu is an ogre mage, as they appear in Swords and Wizardry. That means he's got 5d8 plus 4 hit dice, and because he's an exceptional specimen, I will give him the full 44 hit points. There are 4 combat robots stationed at either side of each of the airlocks. The moment anyone raises the alarm, they will become active. If he can reach them before then, he can destroy them in a single attack. But doing so will give anyone nearby a chance of hearing him. As an ogre mage, Yongu regenerates 1 hit point per round unless he's being damaged by some kind of fire. I'm going to count lasers as this. But because this is a starship, people don't generally wield lasers inside. They rely on swords or bullets. I will give a 1 in 6 chance for each group that Yongu encounters that they will have at least one moron who decides that packing a laser is for their safety anyway. If those characters miss, there will be a 1 in 6 chance that they will punch a hole in the hull. I will treat normal crewmen as soldiers, but have a sergeant at arms in charge of the ship's troops, and treat the captain as a 4-hit die fighter. Let's see how this plays out. Kyle the Knot prayed to the Dark Star, to the Void, to whatever other deities he could think of that people still believed in. He could still feel the hand of the massive creature behind him resting on his shoulder, although it had made itself invisible again. He had no idea how he was going to live through this. Silently, they drifted to the hatch of the Zur. He activated his boots so that he could latch onto the side of the hull and push the button to open the airlock. He shook as he stepped in, feeling the massive presence behind him. The countdown to the airlock's completed cycle felt like the countdown to his death. He nearly screamed when he felt his helmet bumped again.
Take off your helmet, then don't move if you want to live.
He was all too happy to pull off the sweaty, stinking helmet and feel the cool air venting over his face. Through the window he could see Gunny Bragg looking at him with a puzzled expression. It took the Gunny an instant to count a single returnee, then reach for the intercom and summon more help. I'm going to roll a d6 plus 1 for the number of pirates who are going to gather just outside the airlock. Bandits and soldiers are both encountered in a group of 1d6 plus 1 inside a dungeon, so that's where I'm going to start. The first one will be Gunny Bragg, who is a 3-hit die sergeant-at-arms. Another one will be the medic. Then we'll see how many more show up. Well, that's 6. So there's a total of 7. About half the crew is hanging out waiting to see what's going on with Kyle Venat. I'm going to give even odds that this has caught the attention of the captain, and he might be looking through a camera. On a 1 to 3, he will be observing. 6. I guess he's got better things to do. It looks like just about everything is going Yongu's way. Because he's invisible and making no sound, I will also allow Yongu to have surprise on the first round. Drawing on the terrible inner powers that are native to his species, Yongu reaches out, sapping the energy out of the creatures around him, creating a sleep spell effect. Against 1-hit die creatures, Yongu gets to roll 2d8 for the number he knocks unconscious. Oh wow, that's 16. I'll rule with that high number that Gunny Bragg will go down along with all the crew members present. There is no saving throw permitted. Gripping lasers, boarding swords, medkits, gathered together, the crewmen looked quizzically at Kyle Venat as he stood there, looking anxious. Not one of them had the chance to make sense of the strange figure that materialized behind him before their minds became dull, hazy, and each one of them fell into a nightmare-ridden sleep. Grinning, Yongu picked up the crewmen, one by one, and tossed them effortlessly into the airlock. Then, with the push of a few buttons, the airlock closed and began to cycle, launching 8 condemned men into space. Let's assume for the sake of argument that we had the gunners come to check on things. After all, the engineers might be needed, and the bridge crew is otherwise busy. And after that slaughterfest, let's also assume that the chaos factor drops to 4 for Yongu. We know that Yongu's done business with the Zur a few times before, enough that he trusted them. So my question becomes, does he know the ship's layout? It started off as a freighter, and he probably knows those pretty well. So I'm going to make it very likely that he knows where to go aboard this ship, and probably even recognizes some of the crew. On the Mythic Game Emulator, that gives Yongu a 75% chance of knowing his way around. Let's see if that's the case. 45. Yongu knows where to go next and knows about the combat robots. Yongu deactivated his magnetic boots and willed himself to be free of gravity, allowing him to float effortlessly above the surface of the deck. More importantly, it allowed him to fly noiselessly. He drifted gently to the right-hand hatch and opened it. Before him was the forward cargo bay of the freighter. Well, what would have been a cargo bay in most ships. Instead, aboard the Zur, a massive mechanized missile magazine stood between 2 pop-up gun turrets, their machinery carefully concealed inside the hull. Cryo chambers for holding captives, and makeshift staterooms for the additional crew were assembled, taking up most of the cargo bay. He noted with satisfaction that the gun bay doors were left open, no gunners on duty, and no one permitted to rest in their bunks so soon after a battle. Quietly, he floated over to a bay where a combat robot sat, unmoving. He remembered selling the particular unit, and reviewing its every strength and weakness, even the ones he didn't tell his clients about. With a wrench, he tore open its chest plate and yanked out its power core, hanging it off of his belt. These robots might serve him later. Then he returned to the airlock and glimpsed out for a moment, enjoying the view of a group of corpuscles floating quietly away from the ship, before passing through the other bulkhead. This cargo bay too had been converted. More turrets, more missile magazines, and a launch bay for a dropship. He set to work dispatching the second robot. When Yongu disables this machine, there'll be a chance that the engineers at the bay at the far end will hear him. I'll make it a 1 in 6 chance. No. Quietly, carefully, Yongu rips the chest plate off of the second robot and pulls out its power core as well. Then noiselessly drifts to the far end of the cargo bay, to the hatchway to engineering. He pauses for a moment. Focusing his mind, he bends and twists his own form in accordance to his will. Within moments, he appears to be a perfect copy of Kyle Venat. He pushes a button and floats quietly into engineering, letting his first foot fall only once he's passed the threshold and has taken note of the engineers within. Both the men in dirty boiler suits are sitting against a bulkhead, smoking and drinking from a flask, watching some video on a nearby screen.
Kyle, you okay, mate? We heard that there was something wrong at the airlock. It was a complete disaster, and one of them jackasses has got himself stuck in a spacesuit. We need one of you two to open it up.
So how do I resolve this? Well, Yongu looks like Kyle, and the situation's a little out of the ordinary, so they could believe that somebody would send him to go get them. So I'm going to give each of them a saving throw to notice that something's off about Kyle's mannerisms. That's 2d20, and if either show over a 17, they'll know something's up. That's a 1 and a 15. No dice. The engineers shoot each other an exasperated look and play a quick game of Rochambeau. Grumbling, the loser puts out his cigarette and handed over the flask. Grabbing a kit of tools, he followed Yongu out to the secondary cargo bay, shutting the door behind him. As they crossed the cargo bay, Yongu quietly drew his sword as he fell behind, and then with a long lunging thrust, impaled the engineer from behind. Most of the pirates on board this ship only have an armor class of 7. For a 5-hit die creature like Yongu, that means he only needs to roll a 7 to hit him. I get a 13. Yongu does 12 damage. I shouldn't even bother rolling for the guy's hit points, but I'm curious. Well, he had 6. The engineer didn't have time to scream. He was dead before he hit the ground. But was it quiet enough? Let's roll to find out. 3. The other engineer didn't hear the kerfuffle. Projecting an air of fatigue, the false Kyle Venat walks back into the engineering room and strides up to the other engineer, holding out his hand in the universal signal for share your cigarette. Want to hear the latest in the saga of stupid spacer stories? He asks the engineer. I'm going to give the guy one more saving throw to notice something is off before Yongu gets close enough to kill him. A 16. Close, but not a 17 or better. The engineer hands over the cigarette, and Yongu, in the form of Kyle Venat, takes a long drag. Then with sudden violence reaches out and grabs the engineer's head. I get a 10, and Yongu deals 7 damage to a guy with 4 hit points. Shifting to his massive true form, he slams the engineer's head against the bulkhead, cracking it like an egg, and letting him drop limply to the floor. He grinned, pleased with himself. Still no alarm, and all that should be left is the bridge crew. I've been tracking each of Yongu's movements as if they were taking place in combat rounds. It has now been 1 full turn since he boarded the ship, plus a few moments. Let's see if the captain has grown suspicious and decided to start scanning cameras. I'll give that a 2 in 6 chance. 5. No, the captain is still busy gloating over his victory. He's not paying attention to what's going on. He figures if the crew has something to report, they'll bloody well report it. Yongu levitates away from the dead engineer and floats to the hatchway to the second floor, drifting soundlessly down through the third cargo bay. He reaches another deactivated robot and casually rips open its chest plate and pulls out the battery. 3 down, 1 to go. He drifts noiselessly through another hatchway, past the ladder up to the third deck, and then into the final cargo hold, another mass of missile bays and turret mechanisms. There he finds a final robot, wrenches it open, and pulls its power core. Now this one's close enough to the bridge that they might hear it, so I'm going to give a D6 roll, and on a 1, the bridge crew is aware that at last that something is up. A 2. Yongu's slaughter isn't seeing a single delay. From there, he steps back into the locker room and levitates up a ladder to the 3rd floor. Given that he's not made a single sound, and he knows there's going to be bridge crew in the bridge at the end of the hallway, I'm going to grant Yongu a surprise round, and it is going to be a bloody one. As he floats to the end of the hallway, he presses the button opening the bridge door and thrusts his hand forward, calling forth the most powerful magical spell that his species knows at the very core of their beings. A blast of air nearly as cold as the void erupts from his palms, washing over the captain and the people at the 2 consoles at the far side of the bridge. Everyone caught in this cone of cold is going to take 8d6 damage. To be sporting, I'll give a saving throw to each target for half damage. The captain? 2. Not enough. The sensor operator? 1. And the pilot? 13. None of them make the save. So let's see what kind of damage I'm doing here. 1, 2, 4, 8, 12, 16, 17, 18 damage. There's no way that either of the regular crewmen can survive. Let's find out how many hit points the captain has. 5, 9, 10. No, not even a struggle. Yongu strides into the bridge with heavy footfalls, grinning from ear to ear. He observes with grim satisfaction the 3 flash-frozen corpses in front of them, each in the state of beginning to turn and look over their head.
No, gentlemen, please. Don't get up. I'll see myself to my chair.
He lifts the frozen corpse of the Zer's captain and throws it to one side, before settling down in the command chair and wiping frost off of the indicators. Vengeance was his, and soon so would the planet below. Swords Against Madness was written, directed, played, and GM'd by Brian C. Rideout. Editing and production was done by Stormhead Productions, which is also Brian Rideout. I have generated the music in this series using the Suno AI. For show notes and more information, visit swordsvmadness.stormheadproductions.ca. You can reach me on X at swordsvmadness, and you can email me at swordsvmadness@stormheadproductions.ca. And until next time, roll high, play hard, and think weird.